president, which is why I supported the inquiry. I think that inquiry needs to be done in a very narrowly focused way, and it must be done transparently. I don't know what's going on in those closed doors. We as members of Congress don't have access to the information that is being shared. And I think that the American people deserve to know exactly what the facts are, what the evidence is that's being presented as this inquiry goes on.
Why is it all of a sudden the left is comfortable with secret government processes that are specifically dealing with political questions? Now, that was Tulsi Gabbard there, who was on she was on Hannity's show last night, and she's willing to say that, remember, she hates Trump. She's a progressive. She's a leftist. I do think that I need to repeat that sometimes because it starts to sound like I'm just like, oh, aloha, I want to go surf to the polling place and vote for Tulsi. No. I think she's very bad on most policy issues. But on some core principles, she's one of the very few Democrats you'll come across who's willing to say something's not right here. And holding this impeachment inquiry in secret and making sure that the only thing the public finds out are the pre-approved, predetermined leaks from people like Adam Schiff or whomever Schiff has told, has deputized in his propaganda campaign to be the one who actually leaks the information, that there's something wrong about all of this. Transparency was supposed to be one of those concerns, one of those principles where it doesn't matter what political party we're talking about here. We are led to believe that this is a bipartisan need. We all must have transparency. But then there isn't transparency for whatever reason. Then it's all very, but we can't have them sharing information. The witnesses will share information or something. It says who? Based on what? I think it's utter nonsense, by the way. Lindsey Graham is getting feisty these days. I like feisty Lindsey Graham. The Lindsey Graham who went off on the Kavanaugh ambush, right? The Kavanaugh destruction campaign based on lies. As I've always said, still one of the prouder moments on this show I've had when dealing with any topic was just how much we were having none of it. We're not taking any of the propaganda on, oh, well, maybe these people are telling the truth about Kavanaugh. We should hear them out. We heard them. They were lying. But when you look at what Lindsey Graham is willing to say now, I have to say I like some of what Lindsey Graham's got going on here. You got reporters who are trying to push the narrative is what Trump did is terrible. This Ukraine phone call is terrible. And let's bring a bunch of other people along. We already know what was said. Well, I don't know what else. If the crime is the phone call, allegedly, then I need to know why other people telling us about the phone call that we have the transcript for is supposed to change our minds, but it's just really meant to be, everyone's yelling and it must be really important because they're all yelling about it. Here is what Lindsey Graham says when challenged on this point. Play clip 13, please.
Are you okay with what came out in the Bill Taylor testimony that the president apparently had directed the military aid to be withheld in exchange for a public declaration of investigations that could help him politically?
Did he talk to the president?
He talked to Ambassador Sondland, who talked to the president.
Oh, that's hearsay. So here's what I can't.
You don't think he's trustworthy?
No, here's what I can't get over. If Rudy Giuliani had a 15-page statement saying he did nothing wrong, wouldn't you want to know more? Would you accept that statement? I've got nothing against Bill Taylor. It's the process. You're asking me, do I believe something based on a statement that hasn't been tested?
Yeah. You see, there's a reason why in our system, and certainly why in the criminal justice system, but any system that is about getting to the truth, it's not just, here is one person presenting information, and no one else can give countering information, no one else can challenge them, no one else can push any other thing. There's a reason why we would understand that to be an insufficient process for getting to the truth. But Democrats are not trying to get to the truth in this whole endeavor. They are trying to take down a president that they hate. And the whole process is being constructed as they go. This is an ad hoc process. There's nothing that they've really established beforehand that lets us know where all of this is going, other than it's going to be impeachment. And the media is going to be, oh my gosh, it's going to be like the super. Can I not? I can't say this super. I can say Super Bowl on the radio. It's a word. They can't. I hope. I don't know. You know, if you used to ever borrow the Dave Letterman top 10 lists, they would actually sue you. They were really aggressive about that, from what I understand. So you couldn't play it over air. You couldn't. Anyway, it's going to be the really big football game that everybody watches at the end of the season of impeachment processes, when they finally have the impeachment vote, and then the media is going to be like, "Oh my gosh, look at this! Who could have seen this coming? We've all seen it coming. They're gonna impeach the president. Of course they are, and they're going to do it because they hate him and because they think that it will help them get they help a Democrat get elected in 2020, because their candidates right now are weak and they know this." Lindsey, this is like turning into the Lindsey Graham segment. I didn't even realize we were going to do this. We got a little more Lindsey here. When you compare the way this is playing out to the impeachment of Bill Clinton, producer Mark, I don't think you understand. I just want to give all the ladies of America, I just want to hug them and keep them close and show them Bill Clinton can feel America's pain. Lindsey Graham says this about the Clinton impeachment comparison. Play 14.
I was involved in impeachment of President Clinton. I know this sounds weird, but Clinton, look what he did. What he did is he had a team that was organized, had legal minds that could understand what was being said versus the legal proceedings in question, and they were on message every day. The President Clinton defended himself, but he never stopped being president. And I think one of the reasons that he survived is that the public may not have liked what the president had done, but believed that he was still able to do his job. And as he governed during impeachment, I think that was probably the single best thing he did, quite frankly.
And yet, how much talk do you see in the media of the fact that Trump continues being president, has been defending his decision on Syria all over the place, has been doing rallies, has been very much engaged in the day-to-day of the presidency? And I would argue that this president has had unfair obstacles put in his way, has been carrying burdens while in office that no other president has had to carry. A media siege that started day one. I mean, the impeachment of this president really began in November of 2016. Now they're just putting a little bit more meat on the bone, but they were planning on doing this all along. There's never been a moment, I think, the Democrats were not going to impeach this president. They have to impeach this president. It is a need, a deep, it's almost an existential need for Democrats at this point. Who are they if they would not impeach this president? Why do they exist if not to impeach this president? And that's why this process, which is just patently unfair. I mean, it couldn't be any more clear that this is being set up to hurt the president, against his interests, against any basic notion of fair play. People in the media are just like, what do you mean it doesn't seem fair? I don't see a problem here at all. It looks totally fair to me. Yeah, because they're rooting for one team. We all know they are. I think there are many journalists in particular who would view the impeachment and removal of the president as the proudest achievement of their lifetime, even if they played some small part in it. That's how much they view this as an essential goal. They view this as something that absolutely must be done in order to set right the republic. I think that the president has shown an unbelievable resilience in the face of all of this. And I do have days where I wonder if not that he would ever quit because he's scared or he can't handle it anymore, but he would quit because, he just doesn't need it. I don't think he will. I think he likes being president. I think he's really taken to the role. But some days you just have to wonder how any human being could deal with so much vitriol and hatred and these efforts to get him, to get this president. Not just to make sure he doesn't win re-election, but to really punish him for having the temerity You know, this President Trump has been uppity in a sense against the establishment. That he would come along without ever having held office, not do what they tell him to do by and large, not speak the way they've told him to speak, and yet have success in office, change things, confront China, have a booming economy. Oh, here we have the president himself talking about, for example, how is the economy going? Because you won't hear about it from most of the media outlets out there. Play clip 3, please.
We have tremendous economic might, far more than we had, relatively speaking, when I took office. When I took office, everybody said that China would be the largest economy in the world within the first 2 years. And we've picked up trillions and trillions of dollars of worth, and China has lost trillions of dollars of worth. So we are far and away the most powerful economy in the world, and if you have a smart president, you'll stay there.
Well, I guess we'll see. But the economy is just humming along. Biggest problem with the economy right now that you'll hear people talk about, can it really stay this good? Can unemployment remain this low? Can the markets be this strong? Can 401ks be gaining at this pace? I mean, these are the questions that people ask now. Not what we were hearing under the Obama administration, even in the second term, which is, well, you know, America's best days are behind it. Growth is going to be slow. We have all these reasons why foreign countries are out competing us. And no, you don't hear that anymore. And you were hearing it was the Obama economy for the first 2 years, but then that just became an untenable talking point. So now what do you hear? You just don't hear anything. You just don't hear anything about it. The single issue, when you ask people who are going to be voting, what is the single most important thing to you? Every election cycle, they will say the economy. Maybe healthcare is number 2, but the economy is number 1. You see any coverage of this? Anyone talking about this? Anyone saying, how did Trump manage to beat all the expectations so much, such that he would be a top president when it comes to economic management? Ah, wow. The best we've had, since Reagan? I think that's probably fair to say. Let's talk a little about China. China! You've got to have that drop. You know what I mean? We've got to have that drop ready. I get sad every...
I will get it back.
Thank you. It's like my favorite. That and Antifa! Buck slap. We also need to bring back the buck slap.
I just did.
Thank you. But I need to find Commie Bear. You know, we made that buck slap. Like, we cobbled together a few different sounds to get that to go. It wasn't even just one. So it's really
wow.
It's really an original.
What an amazing production that is.
Thank you. I've taught myself a little audio editing. I will have you know. Do a little bit here and there. Can drop it in.
Emphasis on the little bit.
Like I was saying, we have some discussion of China coming up here.
Nike stores in China actually removed their Houston Rockets merchandise from their shelves to join the Chinese government in protest against the Rockets general manager's 7-word tweet, which read, "Fight for freedom, stand with Hong Kong." Nike promotes itself as a so-called social justice champion. But when it comes to Hong Kong, it prefers checking its social conscience at the door.
Mike Pence not letting it go that Nike as a company believes in taking a stand, but is it really taking a stand on principle if you benefit financially from the stand and if you would refuse to take a stand if it were to harm you financially? Isn't that just self-interest? You could even argue maybe it's good business, but it's not wokeness, at least not as we have been led to believe wokeness should be practiced. It's not brave. It's not courage. What is it exactly then? What is it that we need to understand here about Nike? Now, Charles Barkley, I remember watching Sir Charles, which is what he was called because of, I believe, maybe it was a Nike campaign or a Reebok campaign. I can't remember back in the day. I did watch a lot of basketball growing up. I actually played basketball growing up. I was pretty decent. Pretty good, kind of little point guard, you know. I was going to say in the mold of John Stockton or Steve Kerr, I could dribble and I could shoot. But isn't Steve Kerr the one now who's just hates America? Am I right?
Yes, he's the head coach of the Golden State Warriors.
Yeah, so he's the one who hates America. He's very woke. Anyway, Charles Barkley, you never know what you're going to get with him. Sometimes he has moments of analytic brilliance, not just about sports, but about things in general. I've heard him say very funny, very entertaining things, very insightful things, in fact. And he's not afraid. He'll say whatever. But I got to say, disagree with Sir Charles here, as he has some harsh words for the Vice President of the United States. Play clip 20, please.
Well, let me say this. First of all, man, the Vice President Pence needs to shut the hell up, number one. All American companies are doing business in China. All American companies are doing business in China. I thought the criticism of Commissioner Silver and LeBron James was unfair. Listen, Daryl Morey, who I like, he can say whatever he wants to, but there are consequences. But I don't understand why these holier than thou politicians, if they so want to worry about China, won't they stop all transactions with China? President Trump has been arguing with tariffs for China for the last 2 years. But I think it's unfair for them to do all their business in China, and just because this thing happened, try to make the NBA and our players look bad. All American companies do business in China, period.
Now, I think Mr. Barkley here is leaving out some important components of this. For one, yes, all American companies, it's actually not true that all of them, but American companies are doing business with China. That is by and large a true statement. And yet not all American companies hold themselves up as champions of social justice and individual rights and human dignity, human rights, whatever it may be. Nike does. Nike makes it very, very public, runs campaigns about how they do care about those things. So then I think it's fair to ask, okay, so do they only care about those things, though, when there's no consequence for caring about it? That's what Charles Barkley is missing here. LeBron James did not have to speak out on the issue of the Maury tweet in China, but LeBron James didn't just say something. He said that Maury doesn't know what he's talking about. And Maury does know what he's talking about, and he's right. So did we just leave that? We push that off to the side? So I would just note that it's important that we not lose sight of what really has gone on here, what the reality of this China situation truly is. Let's hear again just real quick from Vice President Pence. Play clip 10, please.
And if China will step forward and seize this unique moment in history to start anew by ending the trade practices that have taken advantage of the American people for far too long, I know President Donald Trump is ready and willing to begin that new future.
Trump was right about China, has been right about China, doesn't get nearly enough credit for it. Pence is right about China as well. They need to change course. We need to be strong. We need to confront them in ways that are constructive. The fight is on.
It's time for roll call.
It is time for the roll call. Team Buck at iHeartMedia.com if you want to send the email. Facebook.com/Buck Sexton. And do not forget, my friends, to, first of all, follow me on Instagram, Buck Sexton. It's very easy. Those of you watching the show, listening to the show, I post things on Instagram, occasionally puppy photos, backstage stuff from the Freedom Hut, from Fox, from wherever I am. Maybe once in a while I'll take a photo of my avocado toast just because I'm cool, right? That's what the cool kids do? They take photos of their avocado toast.
You have celiac?
Yeah.
So I'm not sure how you're eating avocado toast.
Oh, gluten-free bread, my man.
It sounds gross.
It's actually not bad.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But,
I'm glad I could educate you, though.
Thank you.
All right. So with that, we go to the inbox here for everything that the team is sending along. We start with Christopher. He writes, "Hey, Buck, longtime listener. Love the show, but I want to take you to task on a few issues in a friendly, cordial manner." Uh-oh. Dun, dun, dun. You often cite nepotism as something that Trump can rightfully be criticized for. I disagree. Nepotism means to show favoritism to family members. For example, there's an open position for supervisor in a business, and the boss gives the position to their son regardless of his or her qualifications. That's not Trump. Trump simply has family members as advisors because, one, he trusts them, and two, They truly seem to be competent people who do their jobs well. I don't know, but I doubt they're being paid. And isn't it as though, and it isn't as though Ivanka's taking some position that could have gone to someone outside the family. The president can have as many advisors as he wants. Nothing wrong with it. Christopher, I think you're wrong. I think you're about as off as one can be on nepotism. How do we know that they're good at the jobs, by the way? How do we know they would have gotten the jobs if their dad wasn't the president? I mean, let's be serious here for a moment. I understand people feel very strongly the president's embattled. He needs people around him that he trusts, but everyone's going to trust family members. Everyone's going to think their family members can do a great job in an advisory role. How do you gauge whether someone's a good advisor in this role? What is their work product? No. And you have to remember that this creates problems inside the White House because anybody who would criticize any advisor who's a family member is doing so at their peril. So you don't have a normal work environment. You don't have a situation where ideas and the best ideas will be hashed out in a way that you can be honest about things. I mean, it is the definition of nepotism is to be the president of the United States and say that I'm going to have a child as a senior advisor in the White House. It just is. I don't know. I mean, we can try to come up with some other reason or explanation for it, but if that's not nepotism, my friends, unfortunately, there's no such thing as nepotism. It's not illegal. He's allowed to do it. I get it. Just get ready for, President Chelsea Clinton putting her husband as like czar of your life. Just get ready for it. And then we're going to have to sit around and say, okay, no problem there. I guess he's a great advisor. Nothing to do with the fact that he's her husband or whoever. I'm just saying, whatever the next Chelsea Clinton, that got your attention, didn't it? It should. So anyway, Chris, I agree. I disagree with you 100% on the nepotism disagreement. So there's that. All right. But thank you for writing in, and your kind words are appreciated. Number 2, you cite the lack of building a wall. As far as the walls that have been rebuilt that we don't count, he isn't going around replacing perfectly acceptable barriers with new ones. He's rebuilding walls. Border Patrol says we need them because they're dilapidated, wholly useless, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. Yeah, I've said this on the air that the rebuilt wall is an improvement. But Christopher, the president didn't say that he was just going to rebuild the walls in areas that are better. That was not what he said. We know what he said. He said he was going to build a wall from sea to sea was really what he said. He said we're going to build a wall all the way across the southern border. That was the promise. He maybe wouldn't be able to do that in 4 years, fine. But we haven't built really any wall in areas where there was no wall before then. And there was a very limited stretch of the border where there is currently, or a limited stretch, I should say, a border where there's currently walls. So the promise was to build a wall across the border where it is needed. We are way short of that. So if we're going to hold him to his promises, we need to be honest about that. You said, number 3, you said the other day that he couldn't corral the votes to overturn the ACA, but how is that his fault? We fell 1 vote short. I think Trump has many qualities screaming for critique, but in these instances you cite are completely unfair. Keep up the fight, shields high. And a shout out to producer Mark from Chris. Chris, I appreciate it, man. I would want to see a second email from you because you're basically citing areas of criticism that I've had for Trump, and you say there are legitimate areas of criticism, but these aren't them. Well, what are they? Follow up with me on that one. Let me know. And if you're just going to tell me that the tweets and the language, there's more than that, my friend. So what are the legitimate areas of criticism for Trump's presidency? You named some of the ones that I criticize, obviously, so you do listen to the show, and I appreciate that. All right, let's see. Noah writes, Buck, I'm a 15-year-old living in Chicago. All right, Chicago. Try to listen as much as I can. I work a part-time job that pays $8.50 an hour. I was wondering why raising minimum wage is bad. Also, what do you think about lowering the age to work? I found it hard to find a job at my age. What do you think about that issue? I listen on Apple Podcasts, Shields High. Well, Noah, it's great to have some Team Buck youngin listening to the show. Young folks listening to the show, which I'm very happy about. As to why raising minimum wage. So raising minimum wage is very popular, including among really everybody. It's popular among Democrats. It's popular among Republicans. The problem is that labor has a certain value in a labor market. And when you artificially inflate that value by declaring what the wage, instead of what the market sets the wage at, you declare what the wage will be, there are always other consequences. That is a government market intervention. So, and maybe an easy way to think about this would be, well, if minimum wage is just a question of paying people more, why not pay everybody? And by the way, Noah, it's great that you're doing this job and making money at a young age. I wish I did some tutoring and I made some money that way in high school. And then I worked when I was in college for the college to make some money. So, you know, but I understand that it's really important you establish, you want to do things at a young age where you're getting money for them. So you appreciate money more and you have a sense of what do you want to do to get paid and how much do you really want to get paid, and, you know, make life choices with that in mind. But let's say that if your job, with your job, they paid you instead of $8.50 an hour, they paid you $100 an hour. What would happen? Okay, well, there'd be the payroll would show that there's less money, or there's more money rather, coming out of the overall revenue of that business every month. And if it were substantial enough, then maybe they would have to fire somebody else because they don't have the money, right? There's only so much money coming in for the business. And if they can't pay some other person because they're paying you $100 an hour, not picking on you, Noah, but, you know, if they're paying you $100 an hour, they might not have it in the payroll budget anymore to keep. So now an employee gets fired. You're making more money, but there's an employee who's making no money. Because this is all, the price is the price. The market determines the price. All these other things that people talk about are just, these are externalities of government regulation that don't take into account basic economic reality. More realistically, let's say they set the minimum wage at, instead of $8.50, they're paying you $15 an hour, and they're going to pay everybody that now, $15 an hour. Okay, well, that's a doubling of the costs of the labor day to day for this business that you work for. And so, you know what they might have to do at that point? They say, well, we can't afford to pay everybody. You know, if the business is only making $10,000 a month, let's say, and now our labor costs for a 40-hour work week because of the $15 an hour and all the employees we have exceeds that $10,000, we're going to go out of business, right? So what do? They cut back hours. Now, you might be making $15 an hour now, but if you're working 4 hours at a time instead of 8, or 2 hours on the weekend instead of 6, or whatever it may be, you might be making less money. And that's just a function of the business trying to stay profitable and trying to. So this is what happens when you raise minimum wage. Some people do benefit from it. There's no question. Some people will benefit from raising the minimum wage, but some businesses will be hurt and or shut down. Some people will have their hours cut. Some people will lose their jobs because the business can't afford to keep them at that new wage scale. And ultimately, the price is the price, the wage is the wage. The government can mandate otherwise, but they're just taking money from one area and putting it into another based on their determination of what seems fair. Let's see. Phil. There we go. Writes, hi, Buck. I continue to enjoy your show, doing my best to spread the word about it. The best form of advertising. Yes, Phil, very important. Please tell your friends about the Buck Sexton Show. It is critical that those of you who listen tell people about it, because that is how the show will grow. Check out C. Northcote Parkinson and Parkinson's Law, where he says work expands to fill the time available to do it. Surely, as an entrepreneur, you're not bringing a success story on how you've carved out a media niche by working only 5 hours a day, 5 hours a week. I didn't quite think so. From Phil. I'm not really sure what you're saying. No, I don't work 5 hours a day, 5 days a week. I work constantly, all the time. But that's by choice. And that's because I'm in a highly competitive business with a very uncertain career track and trajectory, and we just got to make it happen. There's nothing else. But that also said, you know, I don't have to show up to an office at 8 o'clock in the morning and sit there and stare at a screen in a cubicle and do nothing. I'm always doing things that I need to be doing. But I'm also always thinking about work, which, is that healthy? Who knows? Don, good evening, Buck. Looking forward to your show in Nashville. All right, cool. I grew up in Memphis, but the Tennessee hospitality also lives well in Nashville, as does the Golden Tennessee whiskey. I think you should still plan a trip to the Nashville karaoke bars, have a shot of smooth Tennessee whiskey, and break out a Bernie or Beto rendition of your favorite song for the Tennessee Freedom Hut. Shields high. Well, thank you, man. I guess some of you will be seeing me in Nashville. I'll be in Nashville tonight and through the weekend. I'll be at Politicon, which is, just type in Politicon 2019 on Google if you want to know where it is. I think they're still selling tickets. So I'll just be kind of wandering around, hanging out. I'm doing a couple of panels, panel, whatever. We'll talk about some things, politics, it'll be fun. So if you happen to be in the Nashville area, listen to the show, please do come check it out. It'd be great to see some Team Buck there. It'd make me happy, make me feel like I got some friends around. And with that, we'll continue on with our roll call. All right, roll call. Still in the email inbox here. teambuck@iheartmedia.com is how we do it. Let's see. Steve writes, "You're great. We love you, man. Thanks for preaching the truth." Steve and Stacy down in Texas. Well, Steve and Stacy, thank you. You guys are awesome. It's very nice of you. We try very hard to make this a good show, a worthwhile show, an informative show, a fun show. We might even have to start doing some producer Mark stand-up at the end. We got all kinds of fun plans.
Can I stay in my chair?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Great.
Yeah, just
that's
audio.
all that matters. Yeah.
That's right. We might have to eventually set up a camera so you guys can actually see producer Mark. I don't know. I kind of like that, there's like this imaginary fourth wall here, so you don't really know what's going on.
I like being a mystery to the audience.
Yeah, he's kind of a mystery man.
Yeah.
He's the wizard behind the curtain. All right, let's get what we've got here with Maureen. Greetings, dear Buckman and producer Mark. You had a segment yesterday about 7-year-old transgender named James Luna Younger, and I wanted to add an important element to the whole story. His biological dad has been denied any right to raise him or have access to him, yet the woman is not biologically related to him. She bought eggs and did in vitro with the young boy's dad's biological contribution. She's not biologically related to him. The dad is, yet she gets the custody of a child she's not biologically related to, while he's denied any rights to his own biological son. Also, James said it was his mom who told him he was a little girl. This is a travesty and child abuse. Thank you for talking about it, though, and bringing awareness. Love you and your show and your imitation of Elizabeth Warren. I tell everyone to listen to you as you're incredible. You're a sage of the airways. You're simply the best. Big hugs. Maureen in Newport Beach, California. Yeah, Newport Beach, Maureen. Have like a meeting of the Republican Club out there and invite me. I want to go out to Newport Beach. You ever been out to Newport Beach, producer Mark? It is, it is fantastic.
Sounds like a great place.
I don't really care that much about becoming a millionaire one day, except it would be fun because then I could get a place in Newport Beach because it's really expensive.
But I thought it's all going to disappear in a few years.
Oh, yeah, that's right. They should sell it to me at a discount because of climate change. Oh,
it could be the new Freedom Hut.
That would be the new Freedom Hut.
Perfect.
Newport Beach, California, Freedom Hut. Sign me up. Yeah, Maureen, call me. Let me know how I can come out there and do a speech or something. I love Newport Beach, California. I will show up. Let's see here. James, aloha, Buck. Your girl Tulsi is off about aloha. Aloha is wishing the recipient to be in the presence of God. Dominus vobiscum from the Catholic Latin Mass. What? Okay, whatever. Will the hut get the message soon that Buck is leaving to join with Tulsi and Andy? No. Let's see here. James, thank you for writing in. Where are we next here? Ken, I'm trying to find someone. Just watch the show for the first time. I know you're not a small guy, so Kelly must be enormous. Stay close to him. Who is? Oh, Jesse Kelly. Yeah.
Duh.
Jesse. I was like Kelly.
Yeah.
Jesse. I think it was Jesse. No, Jesse's huge. Jesse's like 6'10". I'm 6 feet tall. Jesse is like 6'9". He's enormous. He likes to lord that over all of us too. He's like, well, it's I'm just down here being Jesse, just being all cool in Texas and tall and handsome and all this other and funny and all this other stuff. And he's like, how's the air down there, little buckster? And I'm like, I don't know, man. It's like we're in a different atmosphere. Jesse's the best. I hope you guys really enjoy his show. I enjoy his show. I think he's one of the big emerging talents in media and conservative media, period. And not just big because he's taller than Paul Bunyan. I mean, the guy's absolutely huge. I mean, he makes Sasquatch look like he can't ride the amusement park rides. I mean, it's like that. Jesse's a big dude. That's going to be the show. I'm going to be in Nashville at Politicon this weekend. Team Buck, if you see me, please come up, say hi. I'd love to see any members of Team Buck who are there. Please do tell some folks about the show this weekend. Pass the buck. And until Monday, my friends, shields high.